Hello, this is Istina from Color Kelly Crochet, and welcome to my crochet cross stitch hoodie. This is the cross stitch that I used. It looks very pretty. Hopefully you'll find it easy. I did. And if I put my hand through, it looks like this. And so I used the cross stitch in the middle section, and I used HDC front loop, back loop for things like the hood and the pockets, so that you don't have too many holes, so you have protection from the wind, etc. So I'm using a 9mm hook and Vanna's Choice lime brand Vanna's Choice in burgundy and dusty blue and silver heather. These are nice yarns. So the hoodie chain an uneven number for everything for the hoodie, but when it comes to the hood rectangle, any number will do. So let's say I did 15 for the demonstration purposes. So I have this pattern repeat on my blog. All the details of the pattern are on my blog. So in the pattern repeat, I have 5 different types of rows, and you use slightly different rows for the middle section and for the bottom and the top sections. So let's say I'm using gray. You're supposed to start with the burgundy for the bottom section, but I'm using gray so that you can see it better. So let's say you're starting your bottom section. So row 1 is half double crochet in the third chain from hook, and so this counts as 2 half double crochets, and the stitch count is base chain -1. So, and half double crochet in next stitch and in every stitch. So, or let's say we're making a pocket. So row 2 is chain 2, turn, and half double crochet front loop only in the same stitch, and in the next stitch and in every stitch. So front loop means you're just crocheting into this loop. So row 3 is chain 2, turn, and half double crochet back loop only in the same stitch, in the next stitch, and in every stitch. Well, in case you were wondering, your last stitch of the row is not top of chain 2, it's just, this is the chain 1 and chain 2, this is the chain 2, this is the last stitch is not into the top of chain 2, it's just your last stitch of the row before the chain 2. Okay, so bottom section for this hoodie is row 1 to begin with, and then repeat rows 2 and 3 until you have an even number of rows, and then you change color to the next color up. So I just want to show you how, if this was the pocket, what the last row of the pocket looks like, because it's a ribbing. So we chain 2, turn, and then we have made these 8 half double crochet posts. So we're just going to make front post double crochet around the next post, not the same post, but the next post, and then a back post double crochet around the next post, And this is your ribbing for the pocket, so you keep alternating. So now it's front post double crochet and back post double crochet. So this is the other side of the pocket, this is the front, this is the front of the pocket, and it looks like this. Let's say you want to practice the cross stitch for the middle section. So we make chain 3. So the bottom section ends say here because it requires an even number of rows, and then you've changed color and you started your as per pattern. It tells you to repeat to make a row 3, which we did, and the next would be rows 4 and 5, which I'm going to show right now. So row 4 is chain 3, and this counts as a double crochet and turn. So we are yarning over, and now we're looking at where we're going to crochet into. We're not going to crochet into the same stitch, we're going to crochet into the next stitch, and it's going to be a double crochet front loop only. And once we've done that, now we yarn over again and we look back at the stitch that we skipped, and we're gonna crochet a front loop, a double crochet front loop only into the skip stitch, and we're just gonna insert the hook into the front loop, and we're not gonna do anything tricky. We're just taking this yarn and completing the yarning over and pulling through, so these two posts are connected. So again, yarn over and we'll have a look at which stitch we're going to crochet into. We're skipping one and we're crocheting into the next after we skipped one, and we're making double crochet front loop only. And once we complete that, we yarn over and we go back, look at the stitch that we skipped, and we insert a hook into the front loop only, and simply, without doing any tricks, we're just completing this double crochet. And this is your cross stitch from the back and from the front. So keep repeating that for this row. So what do you do at the end of the row? So first of all, you had the chain 3 at the beginning, so we're going to end with a double crochet as well. So once you make your last crossover of double crochets, you have one stitch left, which is again not any part of the chain 2, it's just your last stitch just before the chain 2. So simply make a double crochet front loop only into the last stitch, and this is the end of your row when you're making the cross stitch. So now when you're making the middle section, the next row to included in the pattern repeat for the middle section is row 5, which is chain 2, turn, and it counts as a half double crochet, and we're going to skip crocheting into the same stitch. I did that because if I didn't do it, it starts to lean like a Tower of Pisa to the right. So I need to skip the stitch here and make so we're making a half double crochet, so we're not crocheting into the same stitch, but half double crochet back loop only into the next stitch after you've skipped the same stitch, and in every stitch, but also when you reach the end of the row, you will be crocheting into the top of chain 3. So we reached the end of the row and we can see the chain 3, and we're just see how it's only natural if my next stitch is this. So just pick up the top of chain 3, which is right next to the last stitch. So half double crochet in the top of chain 3 as your last stitch. So this was row 5. So this is actually all the stitches, all the rows, all the types of rows that you need to make this hoodie. And so middle section, you should if you follow the pattern, it will tell you how many rows, but you should end with an uneven number of rows for the middle section. So say I've done 3, and now I want to show you how to change colors. Say I want the top section to be blue. So just before you complete the last stitch, when you have last 2 loops on the hook, take your new color, and so I'm gonna make a magic knot right here, so that when you pull up the new color, when you next time you yarn over and pull through, it's a new color. So make a simple knot around the gray and make it loose enough so you can push it as close as you can to the very base of the tail, or the as close as you can to the crochet hook. Then you tighten it as much as you can, and then you take your old color and make a simple knot around the long end of the new color. And as you tighten the knot, position it right next to the first knot and pull it as tight as you can once it's as close as it can be. And then, while holding the hook, pull by the long end of the new color as well, as tight as you can, and cut the tails. And now yarn over, pull through, complete your last stitch as if nothing ever happened. So this is your color changed, and now the top section is simply a repeat of rows 2 and 3, which we already done. So it's that simple, and it exposes these beautiful ridges because we're doing front loop, back loop. So let's say I want to make a ribbing along the side of the hoodie that I just made. I want to show you. So you take your color of the ribbing and make a slip knot on your hook, and while the slip knot is still on the hook, insert the hook into where you want your ribbing to start and tuck your tail away, and then pull up the yarn through the other side, through all the loops through the beginning loop, and you've joined your yarn for the ribbing. So the ribbing is row 1 is chain 3, and we're making a row of double crochets for the first row of ribbing. So what I've done here is I've done 1 post per every row of half double crochets, and 2 posts of ribbing per every row of the cross stitch where we crossed the double crochets. So 2 and 1, and then 1 1 1, so it goes like this. So this is like my first post for the half double crochet row. Next here is my half double crochet row, so I'm just making 1 post around the last stitch, and then again 1 post because it's half double crochet row, and this is the cross stitch, so I'm making 2 posts of double crochet for this double crochet post, and this was the half double crochet row, so I'm making 1 post. So this is how it goes, and then the next row, the second row, is chain 2, turn, and we're skipping the first post, and we're making front post double crochet around the next post, and back post double crochet around the the next post, and we're repeating front post, back post. And this is your ribbing for the hoodie. If I had made 2 posts per half double crochet rows, it becomes too wide, so that's why I decided to do that. So let's say I'm making the sleeve. I've chained 29, which is an uneven number of chains, and I've made row 1 and then row 5 from the pattern repeat, and next is row 4, and next is row 5, which is just which is chain 2, turn, and skip the crocheting in the same stitch, but make a back loop, a half double crochet back loop only into the next stitch. So I'm beginning row 3 of my sleeve, and the pattern tells you that you need to increase. So how do we do these increases? So I have my four safety pins that I'm going to use as stitch markers ready, and because so that I can mark how many stitches I've increased in this row. So for example, if I need to increase by 4 stitches in row 3 of the sleeve, well, I'm thinking I'm going to place 1 here, 1 here, and 2 here. So let's say I want to start right at the beginning. So I've made my first half double crochet after I skipped crocheting the same stitch, and I'm gonna make the same. I'm gonna make a half double crochet, another half double, and I'm gonna make another half double crochet in the same stitch. So this is I've increased by 1 stitch because this wasn't supposed to be here. So I'm gonna mark so that I don't need to remember how many stitches I've increased by so far. So I'm gonna keep going, and it doesn't really matter where exactly you increase. You place your extra stitch as long as you do it, because as long as you place extra 4 stitches anywhere in the row, this row will become wider, and that's all we need for the sleeve. So let's say I'm gonna make 2 half double crochets in this stitch, so I've increased by another stitch, and I'm gonna mark, and I just keep going. So let's say I'm gonna increase right now. I'm gonna make an additional half double crochet in the same stitch, and I'm gonna make 1 at the end of the row. So I've reached the end of the row, and I know that I will have to crochet in the top of chain 3, and before that I have 1 stitch left, so I'm going to make 2 half double crochets in that stitch and mark it, and I'm going to complete the row by making half double crochet in the top of chain 3. So I've done my homework, my task. I've increased by 4 stitches in this row. So this is an example of how you can easily do the increase for your sleeve. And then you're gonna do another row of cross stitch and with no increases, and then the next row, row 5, we're gonna do the same like here. So it's just the same. Increase by 4 stitches. And then it varies for different sizes how many stitches you increase in the following rows. It tells you in the pattern. And this is the sleeve once again. And I've increased the stitches randomly, and there's no difference in how it looks. It becomes wider. So I hope you have fun making this hoodie, and see you in my next pattern.